Hello, my bros. The news about Malbs joining G2 were so raw, even Gordon Ramsay would scream in rage. And you know what, bros? G2 decided not to hesitate and immediately announced HOOXI's kick and gave us new ground to think about. So without further ado, today we will try to rack our brains and give you a list of players who could be joining G2 as early as this off-season. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel because it's our main motivation. Let's just start with the fact that all the potential options can be divided into two groups. The first group includes captains to replace IGL with IGL and not to lose a combat unit in the form of Nico. And the second group are good shooters sitting without teams or options that have long outgrown their teams. In that case, Nikola Kovac will take the role of the leader, and you know guys, the Bosnian has already had instances of this in the past with FaZe Clan and Mouse, when he became the captain by the Call of Duty. So, shall we discuss the first group, the captains who may be part of G2 in the near future? Let me remind you that the roster lock for the Blast group stage will be on the 8th of July, and they need to settle with the 5th before that. And we have exactly zero information about who potentially it could be, so here we are only guessing. The first in line is Glaive, who has been leading ANSYS lineup since the end of the last year, and based on the results since the beginning of 2024, we can say that he's doing pretty successfully. The Dane had 6 months to rest and regain motivation after being kicked from Astralis. I think the release of CS2 helped him to do that, and the small successes at the beginning of the season show that he still has some gunpowder left. And the only thing that could prevent the transfer from happening is ANSYS' subsequent results in this season. After reaching the IM Katowice playoffs and playing at the major, the Polish-Danish squad achieved nothing and went for changes at the end of the spring, as DY and Podi from the academy joined. But even so, the last two tournaments, ANS finished with unsatisfactory results. My personal opinion, I really like Glaive, and I think this one could be the most realistic and the most impactful. Moving on, we have Kaden, another Dane on our list. Casper was recently kicked out of Liquid after a failed attempt to put together a stellar roster, but even so, many in the community are confident in the idea that the captain still has something to show in the future. After all, the major hasn't been won yet, you know, and if you look at the history of Kaden's performances on tier 1 level, it could be really soon that he may run out of steam and lose motivation. In case you haven't seen it, we made a video about this player's career a year ago, I guess, and you can see it too. Basically, Kaden's come too far to give up after 4 years on the tier 1 scene and 1 failed attempt with Team Liquid. You know, in G2 he will have it all: a star rifler, a star sniper, a young star, and an experienced supporter. And the only thing old Casper will have to sacrifice is the sniper role, as the team already has Monacy. Next is the oldest captain in the selection, and guess what, also a Dane. We're talking about Snappy from Team Falcons, of course, another person whose super project failed this year. According to rumors, the player could be kicked out soon, and the IGL role will fall to Dupree. Despite his age, Marco also has a short story of appearing in tier 1 tournaments. His ANS squad only first started showing results in 2022, and the first huge trophy was won 15 years deep into CS. Snappy's first was in the summer of 2023 in Dallas. And you know what, gang, that's where the selection of free and good IGLs end. Surely there are some other players, but they have good situations in their teams, and there are no rumors about their departures. You know, bros, the same Kerrigan, Sui, Apex, Alexibi, they're all winning with their own squads, and they don't need to change teams. Chopper, Device, or Jane would not trade communication in their native languages for an English-speaking squad. And there's really nothing to talk about variants like JT, Kexon, Blitz, or Max. I mean, I respect them, but these guys haven't proved their professional sustainability yet to jump from a tier 1.5 to a trophy contender. Despite the lack of information, somehow I feel that Nico will once again take the role of the captain on his shoulders. Still, as I said earlier, he has already had such experience, and Kovac himself called the transition to this role a new step in his career. You know, it happened at the recent IEM Dallas. And Sponge, for example, also agrees with this take. He says people are mad, saying that we should have been able to see the writing on the wall and accepted this fate when the Melbs rumor was looking likely. And, well, he has a point. Anyways, among not IGL players who can join G2, the first one to come in mind is Perfecto, who has been exploring options for the past few months, to return after a failed experience in Cloud9. Considering that he didn't get an invite to Virtus.pro and Team Spirit doesn't need any roster changes being the best team in the world, and Cloud9 has no plans to bring Ilya back to the team, Perfecto has no options of a decent Russian-speaking team at the moment. That's why G2 seems to be a great option. Perfecto knows m0NESY pretty closely and he speaks English quite well. His Vitality option, which was the most talked about, was cancelled amid recent rumors. Therefore, Perfecto can take advantage of a potential slot in G2 100% and without hesitation. He is an amazing player who can fit for the job, so what else do you have to think about? Going forward, the most unrealistic option is for JKS to return. Bros in the comments, you know what to spam and to do. Still, Justin has had a bad history of parting ways with G2. If you forgot or just didn't know, G2's management in late 2023 just kicked him out behind his back and didn't inform him about it, just ignoring his messages. Plus, there were some information about unpaid wages or something like that, so people who believe in the Aussie's return, you can really forget about it. Most likely, Justin will continue his career somewhere else if he wants to return even. Because ever since leaving G2, he wasn't even on socials, not even talking about the server. We can also think about Config, who has barely been in the news since the beginning of this year. It feels as if everyone just forgot about the Dane after his unsuccessful performance in Ninjas in Pyjamas. But we also shall remember that Brolin wasn't a great player either when he played for NIP, but now he's in the top 2 of the world and is one of the best players in MOUZ, so, And most people will agree that Christian was very good back in his days, but he never got a decent chance after being kicked out of Complexity. Subsequent plays for Astralis and, oh god, Ninjas in Pyjamas were not indicative. Both teams suffered from management issues as each new try was worse than the previous one. Yeah, Config has some reputation, but who even remembers his 2 MMA fight nights? Moreover, the player himself admitted that he has long since worked through those moments and he's a different person now. And also, if you are concerned about the player's stats, just take a look at how he banged in good lineups where he was happy with everything and felt comfortable. Well, and the last person I want to talk about in this context is simple, surely. In the past, the management of the organization was already interested in him, but couldn't manage to buy him out of Navi. And now Sasha no longer needs Nados Vincere, and Nados Vincere doesn't really need Sasha anymore as well, and they can significantly lower the price of his buyout. The only thing really alarming is, does CS need Sasha? He rarely comes to face it, and when he decides to come back, his stats leave much to be desired. He's been toxic about the game and about the scene and about everything, so no PMA at all. Yeah, for the sake of the content and the hype, this signing will be on par with the same Stewie 2K, which we purposely didn't talk about in this video. Still, you should realize that the American who hasn't played CS for 2 years is unlikely to be a good fit for the tier 1 team. True, about the same can be said about Sasha, but unlike Jake, he at least sometimes decides to launch a stream on his favorite game. And moreover, he knows everything about the game and the scene. And Kostelev has much more merits than Stewie. He was in the top 2 from 2018 to 2022. And even when he tanked the game last October, he was able to get into the top 10. If he signs for G2, that might feel interesting, because he will switch to Rifle, and we all want to see Simple playing Rifle. Anyways, my bros, what do you think about the 5th G2 player? Write in the comments below, let's discuss. And also, as always, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Well, that's all for now. I'm not saying goodbye for a long time. See you soon.